magic to work, you have to truly believe in the magic.
Hey, Magic fans, and welcome to this episode of Let's Talk Magic. It's obviously an Orlando Magic podcast. Tonight, we're going to talk about lessons learned in the last few games. We're going to discuss the upcoming trade window. We're going to look around the league and we're going to grade what is the halfway point of the season. And if you've been watching The Slice of Bacon, you will know that. But before that, today's episode is brought to you in association with Attraction Tickets, the UK's #1 attraction ticket and theme park hotel provider for all of Orlando's major theme parks, attractions, shows, and sporting events. This includes selling Orlando Magic tickets at hugely competitive prices, which is why we assume you're watching this. It includes special offers on Magic bands, a fantastic deal on Discovery Cove, a meal voucher if you're fancying Kennedy Space Centre, some cracking deals on official Disney and Universal hotels, and money back, which is always good right now at Disneyland Paris. But you'll have to act fast because the deals aren't on for long, so head over to Attraction Tickets. You can also visit letstalkmagic.com for all of our affiliate links, discount codes, which includes the NBA store and Fanatics. So that's that out of the way, G. You were trying to put me off, but it wasn't going to work. How are you doing, mate? How's things in Wales?
I'm good, mate. That was professional, mate. First take
was.
compared to me and you, Paul. I'm glad Gary's in the driving seat tonight.
You and I had, G. Good grief. Last week, your entry to the podcast, and then I think it was the Miami
your
game.
Outtakes.
My outtakes. Oh, horrendous. I think it was 15 tries to get the start right. No, wasn't good.
Yeah. And if you're a Patreon member, you would have seen some of those because they got to enjoy some of Paul's calamity outtakes.
Oh, they were the ones I didn't include were it was about, I think by the time it was done, it was a 10, 11 minute thing. I got 6 minutes through one of them. And completely lost my way. I realised I was talking about the wrong game. I think I'd looked at, for one point I'd looked at Philly.
Yeah.
Not Philly, sorry, I'd looked at Cleveland, which was upcoming the following night, as opposed to it being the Miami game. Oh no. I will say it didn't finish with a polite ending. That one.
But going back to you, Guy, I'm very well, thank you, mate. Obviously, I got a countdown. I got 2 weeks today. I'll be on my way to London to go to the City Beautiful. So, yeah, exciting times, mate, and looking forward to it. How are you?
Yeah, living the dream, mate. Living the dream. It's got through that intro, so it's all good. I'm happy with it, and I'm glad you brought up the outtakes because the word is that it made the Patreon tier just worth that little bit more this month.
Everybody loved it, didn't they? Everybody loved it.
But everybody loves a bit of bacon. So speaking of the bacon, how is the master of the slice tonight?
Oh, good, my friend. Thank you very much. Yeah. Just trying to get back to a little bit of normality now. As you know, we've been having the roof done. That work's done, and it's now just into paintbrush and sanding and all that sort of thing, getting the rooms right again.
So you're going to have a black belt. You're going to have a black belt in karate by the end of all of this, because that's what it worked for Daniel's sand, didn't it? Paintbrush and sanding.
Hey, let me tell you, honestly, when it comes to DIY in this house, Mrs. Bacon does it. Because she will not let me anywhere near. I am absolute disaster zone. You think you the stuff I can do when I'm out and about walking and falling over and all the calamities I have there are pale into insignificance compared to my abilities at DIY.
You know what though? You had to be weak at something because you are like the Hoff. So if you're going to be the Hoff and you're going to produce the slice, you've got to have like an Achilles heel somewhere. So if it's DIY, it's DIY.
It's DIY, mate. I'm very definitely in that category where if I try something, we pay twice. Once for me to buy the items to do it originally, second time to have somebody come and put it right. I'm in that category.
So my category is, does it involve a sledgehammer? Because if it involves a sledgehammer and putting the sledgehammer through it, I'm your man.
Oh, happy with that. Yeah. If it's knocking things down or lifting heavy things, I'm all right. It's the...
Haven't you got some scaffolding outside, Paul? If Gary comes over, you can sort that out for you, mate.
Mate, we can have a pull-up competition. I'll do
Nice.
one for every 10 Gary does. I'll do one.
I like pull-ups; they're good. It's my favorite
Yeah,
exercise.
my body used to like them more. I did have a sneaky go on the front the other day.
I get the Rocky music.
Everybody local was out at work, so I knew I was pretty much the street to myself.
Well, next week's Patreon prize will be Paul doing pull-ups. So if you subscribe, you can have videos of that.
Nobody wants that.
Oh, I want that. Right. So once we've got past there, I've just got this visual now of like Paul outside his house doing pull-ups with the Rocky music on.
In his
That was the highlight.
In my Baywatch shorts with my abs painted on.
Why not? It's all descended into chaos, which kind of feels a little bit like what's been going on recently in Orlando. You may disagree or you might agree with that, but it's been an interesting time, chaps. Last 3 games for me, I would sum them up as Philly, not great. Miami, superb performance. Cleveland, about as bad as it gets. And I was really disappointed. And I think, personally, that was the worst performance of the season. I want to start things on a positive note, even more positive than Paul's pull-ups. So we'll think about the last few games. I'll start with G. What positives have you got, G?
Well, the win against Miami, first of all. Obviously, especially that second half, it was a 2-point ball game, I believe, at the half. It could have gone one either way, really. But luckily, the boys pulled it out. We saw glimpses of how the team performed in the early part of the season. We had our, original starting 5 from the beginning of the season, with Markel and there with Wendell, Jalen, Franz, and Paolo. They all came to play. And you also saw the firepower from the bench and everybody, doing their role, their bit. And it all came together. So it was nice to get, that monkey off the back with a win against Miami, especially, where the seedings are at the moment. I'm not even going to mention that Cavs game because, there was nothing positive about it really, was there? We were missing players again. And we've spoken in the group chat this week and, one of the worst performances we've seen in a very long time. I'm just glad none of us were out there at the arena to see that particular performance. But, just looking at how things are in a larger, bigger picture sort of thing, we're in 8th. We're within striking distance of the 2 teams in front of us. So that's the Miami Heat and the Indiana Pacers. Obviously, Miami took a terrible loss last night, and I absolutely loved it, to the Memphis G League Grizzlies. So they're 23 and 20. No, they're 24 and 20. We're 23 and 21. They play the Celtics tonight. They play the Knicks and then the Suns. Just looking ahead their schedule, they've got a long road trip, including Milwaukee, Philadelphia, New Orleans, Sacramento, Portland, and Denver. That's quite a tough ask. We've got our 2 West Coast swings out of the way with. And the other team, obviously, we're chasing the Indiana Pacers. Now, these teams have made moves. We'll talk about this a little bit later on. They've got the Sixers tonight or tomorrow. Then they've got the Suns. Obviously lost 4 straight. Halliburton, I can't remember if he's back yet, but obviously Siakam's been, moved into the team. They're probably trying to figure things out. But, we said at the beginning of the season, we were expecting the team to finish, 42, 43 wins. We're on pace for that at the moment. And where we're at the moment is that January gauntlet, which we spoke about. And you got to remember, we've had a lot of injuries. We're not quite through, the end of January just yet. We've got a couple more tough games, but we're keeping our heads above water from, the way I see it. We're getting players back. We're capable of playing magic basketball, as, all the assistant coaches have said at the halftime interviews. And especially that Miami game was, the defense, we know how it can play, and we've seen it in stretches. We just need to get that consistency. We'll get onto the negatives in a second, but easiest remaining schedule remaining out of the whole league. So we're in that position. Okay, we're 8th. If we can get to 6th, superb. We'll talk about trades, etc. in a bit, but obviously that'll have some implication. But, shouldn't all be glass half empty. We're better than we were last season, and we've seen how good this team can be.
Fair, a very fair point. I think you've given us the real glass half full of there, G. So, Paul, do you want to add anything what Mr. Jones has said?
I agree. In that, look, we knew that this part of the schedule that we've just gone through was going to be hard, and that we would ultimately see a bit of a drop back after what was an incredible start. Probably a start better than we all anticipated. Yeah. We are better than last season, so I'm going to take that as the positives. But I know I get to do the miserable old man section in a moment.
Well, I'd tell you for you, Paul. My view is the Cleveland one was about as bad as it got. I was a bit annoyed, I'll be honest, watching that. Instead of going like down a total misery route, we'll try and put a slight positive on it. But what lessons do you think we've learned from that Cleveland game? Because I think there's a lot there.
Mate, honestly, I just feel that whole game we weren't good enough. And with a couple of days beyond where that game is, I think it's important that everybody comes out of a game, whether you're at the game or whether you're watching it on the screen, and your immediate reactions are quite extreme. And that was as poor a game as I think I've seen us play in quite some time. A couple of days on, I'm not going to overreact to what was a defeat to an excellent team. We were on the second night of a back-to-back, but there were zero positives to take from it. We were second best in every aspect of that game all night. None of their starters played in the fourth quarter. None of our starters played. That tells you all you need to know about how far the game had gone by that point. For me, it was interesting to hear Paolo suggest in one of his post-game interviews, it was kind of a indication that the team had got the prep wrong, that they hadn't watched the film properly, that they'd looked at names and got wrapped up in that, as opposed to looking at, okay, what are they doing? How are they playing this currently? And it was, in some ways, I wonder if we underestimated them without Mobley and Garland. And if that's the case, then there is a learning experience, which is a positive for a young team, that you have to approach every game in the correct manner. You can't have those slips in standards to such an extent that we had in that game. The most frustrating part of it for me, and I don't quite understand why, but with second night of a back-to-back, going into 4 days without a game, we decided that injury management was the order of the day for Markel and J.I. We needed something to boost the defence, particularly that second unit, who didn't have a good night. And unusually for the Magic this season, the bench was completely outplayed by Cleveland's bench. We needed something to fire that bench up, and J.I. could have been that person. Equally, in the starting unit, or further on in the game when things weren't working out offensively, we could have done with somebody with just that little bit of some ball handling ability to calm things down, potentially make a drive or two to the basket, and Kel could have been that person. I would have rather seen us give them an even tighter minutes restriction than they have been doing, be it 10 minutes, just so they could have had that influence on the game, especially when you're going into a few days without. Don't get me wrong, the club have got far more idea of what these players need, but it just felt a little bit odd, should we say? That had it been that it wasn't a back-to-back, but we were playing the following night, they'd have probably been involved. I would have liked to have seen perhaps a tighter minutes restriction. And I think that's something that we could have perhaps done with and benefited from, whether that's a learning experience that the team will look at and think, we perhaps got that one wrong. I don't know. But they have far more experience than you and I, and that's where they pay the money. We're looking at it from fans and just spouting from some of our frustrations, I suppose. Equally, it's got to be mentioned, as I've just said, that they were without Garland and Mobley and have been since about December the 15th, I think it is. By the time they left the Kia Centre, they were on a 8-game winning streak. I know that's now gone.
8. Yeah.
They were 13-3, so now 13-4 in the period without Garland and Mobley. They have found a way to win without 2-star players.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate they've been fortunate with the schedule because they haven't faced some of the tougher teams. And yes, we did do similar earlier in the season without Markel and without Wendell when we went on our excellent run. However, we just looked in that game to lack quality. We just didn't have anything going that night. I don't know. I don't know what lessons we could take from it. Hopefully it's the prep thing, but we just looked out of sorts. We just looked out of sync. We just didn't seem to have anything to offer. It was lacking energy. Yeah. We've got to do better on the second night of a back-to-back.
Yeah, absolutely. G, anything you want to add to what Paul's just thrown?
I think Paul's hit the nail on the head there about the whole prep thing, because you look at how the offense played. Now we were playing catch up a lot of the time. We shot 46% from the field, 38% from 3, which are numbers you could lean on to get a win, but obviously the defense wasn't there, and I was quite disappointed in the guard rotation, especially Jalen Suggs and Anthony Black. They got absolutely annihilated by Donovan Mitchell and what Paul said there, Sam Merrill. Absolutely, lights out shooter, and he's in the game just for that. He's absolutely capable, and I just feel like maybe we didn't give him the respect that he deserved. So yeah, a bit disappointed by that. We were killed in the paint. We just playing catch up. They had double our points for most of the first half, didn't they? And you just couldn't see, other than when Jeff and David were on the telly talking about the largest comeback win ever was against the Cavs, and this is all nicely set up for a comeback win, but unfortunately it didn't happen. Other than that, Paul's hit the nail on the head with everything. It's just continuity again. Getting the players in at the same time, and these players have played with each other. Black's been in the lineup plenty of times. I don't know, just the offense didn't flow. Turnovers again. So yeah, it was a pretty bad game, to be honest, but it was just one game. And the other thing is, it doesn't make the fact we got 3 days to stew on it as well. That's pretty bad, isn't it? If we had Memphis tonight or last night, then we could have, got a W under our belts perhaps and just felt a bit better about life.
I think.
Sorry, Gary, go on.
Sorry, Paul, go on.
I think that there's the bonus side of those few days is that they've probably had a lot of time to sit down and look and go, that didn't work, this didn't work, where did we go wrong, and go back to the film and work through some of those difficulties, because we were poor throughout the night. They just seemed to come out and really hit us quickly, and I don't know whether you talked about a team that was coming in on the back of 7 wins with a good road record, shooting. We know that we saw in the first game against them this season that they can be lethal from 3. They knocked down something like 9 of their first 12 against us. In that first game. We know that they can be lethal, and we weren't at the races. We didn't come out of the locker room, and we're never able to play anything like a game of catch up with them. They were just in front of us consistently and comfortably, and it was a terrible watch.
Yeah.
What lessons would you take, Gary? Did you see anything?
My big issue with it, I think having the time between the game and the pod when we're recording gives you the time to calm down. Because when I was watching the game, I was just sitting going, I don't know what this is right now, but this is appalling. It was that I was like genuinely sat thinking this is that bad. I was like, this is as bad as it's been this season. Um, so I was just reminding myself, well, we are roughly where I thought we would be, which would be around 500. So I kind of like grounding myself as I tend to do when something bad happens. I always try to find like a grounding thing to do. However, I think a big part of the problem is, and it's something we're going to have to discuss at some point, is we can't get the continuity because we continually have four players who are probably out injured.
Yeah.
And it's one of those where you look at the record and it suggests nothing is going to change. You know, like we're looking at it. Mikey phoned me the other night and I said, the 15 minutes we do get from Jonathan Isaac when he's fit, he's actually an all-star level producer in those 15 minutes. But that might be 15 minutes. And if it's on a back-to-back, you're not going to see him in the next game. Markel looks as though he's something suffering like he was when he came in from Philly, which I'm looking at it going, well, how long is he going to be around? Is he going to be shut down or is he going to play through it? But he's missed a lot of time. Gary Harris is he's not even a factor now. I don't even really think about Gary Harris with the Magic. He's been missing that much, and I'm preparing myself that if anyone's going to go, it's going to be him. And then Wendell's been pretty injury prone since he's been in the league. So we've got four guys who are capable players, but what drags their value down both to us and to any other team who might want them is they might not play. And I think you can carry two of those.
Yeah.
If you've got two players on the salary that they're on, you can carry two, especially with the talent level of some of those players. But we've got four of them. And all of one more injury and your rotation is just if it's not wrecked already, it's in big trouble.
You weren't the only Magic fan sitting there thinking this game has told us that we need to make a move.
Yeah. Well, that's the next question, really, and it's a simple one. And it's before we go into the names that we've had shot across to us, simple question. I'll start with G. Stick or twist?
I stick. Might be a bit of a surprise. I think we've seen enough from the players that we've got that when we do have a healthy roster, and this is the issue, this is what I'm not confident about, is the fact that everyone can remain healthy and active. So we have that, rotation and that bench to come in and play. If I'm making players available, the only one, honestly, I'd be happy to let go would be Gary Harris. Just because I don't think he's brought anything this season. Last season, he was obviously pretty decent from three, but, he's been on the injured list most of the year. Very capable, but obviously he's an expiring contract. So I'd be looking to see what we can get for him. He's going to be he's making 13 million a season. So it's a very movable contract. So do you get involved in another trade to get draft compensation? Or do you make that swing? Or I don't know. We're going to come into a couple of names in a second. But if I was a GM, I would stick.
Okay. Got the view. The slice. How's it up?
I'm leaning towards twist. Simply because you said it, Gary, perfectly well. We have to decide if Markel, Wendell, Gary Harris, and Jonathan Isaac are part of our future. If not, then this has to be the point that we start properly looking around to see what is available. And if something is available to us that moves the needle, I'm not interested in just doing something for the sake of doing something. I don't want us to just go out and pick somebody up for the sake of appeasing people, making a trade for the sake of it. That's a zero benefit. But we have a massive amount of draft capital. Markel is, assuming Markel is one of those names that is on the board, available to go. Markel brings an experience when he is fit, he is still playing at an excellent level. Gary Harris is an expiring contract. Wendell Carter Jr. is on a team-friendly contract. But I'm moving towards the not take a swing, but do something, because we need to. I'm sorry, at an offensive rating of what, low 20s and a field goal percentage of 27% or something like. Sorry, not field goal percent, but we're 27th in field goal percentage. You've got to do something. You can't. Defense will win games, but you've got to be able to score as well. You've got to be able to score as well, and I'm not convinced that we are there. But that is all tempered by what we did earlier in the season. Because when people are available, we can play at an incredibly good level, and we can go out and punch people on the nose.
And it's all right sitting here saying we want to make a trade. Like, for me, an ideal trade would be getting a guard who's a 3-level scorer. But there aren't that many of them out there who are available for trade, because people aren't just going to say, "Okay, take our guy." That's not going to work that way.
It's where you've got to be looking at using some of this draft capital that we've got. We've got so much of it. What have we got? Hang on.
We got 2 first-round picks next year. We got Denver's and our own.
Yeah.
The following year, I believe it's just our own. I'm going off the top of my head here. Then the year after, we've got our own for the next forever.
We have our own for the next 7 years. We've got a 2025 top 5 protector from Denver.
Yeah.
And then we also have the right to swap 2026 for the least favourable between the Suns and the Wizards. First round. And then we've got 12 second-round picks,
which we'll trade for cash.
Get him out there. Get him out there in a deal for me.
Yeah.
That's that's more young players coming into the team than we ever need.
Yes, absolutely. It's the draft capital is the one thing that makes you think, twist. When we talk about stick and twist, I'm thinking about the core players, I suppose. Mm-hmm. So like the expendable ones, your salary fillers, like your Gary Harris's, and I've got all the salaries in front of me because I know we're going to come on to different people now. Your Chumo KK's 3.7 million. He's going to be included in to make a salary work, isn't he? Joe Ingles, whilst I love Joe Ingles, he's, I know I wouldn't want to trade him, but the fact he's 11 million, and I think, I can't remember if it was a team option, so we could opt out next year anyway.
I think one of the things that you've got to consider with Joe Ingles is that he's probably going to have the right to veto anything, and will. I mean, if you watched him this week, he's talking about his family. He was already looking at schools, and part of agreeing to come to here was that there was the right facilities available for his boy.
Yeah,
I think Joe Ingles is actually too valuable to us to move on.
You're probably right. You're probably right. But when we did sign him, it was 11 million. We might be overpaying, but it's something you could include in a package. And we'll get to some of these players now, and we'll see if we can make something work.
Well, Stuart from Patreon has put in our first question regarding this, and he wants to know what you'd be willing to give up for Anthony Simons. This guy's very high on Stuart's list. So Portland's Anthony Simons. Paul, we'll start with you, and then we'll go over to G, who's going to be working the cap. What would you do?
Get the calculator out, shall I?
I'm happy to offer pretty much whatever Portland are wanting. Whatever the correct value is to get that guy, you can have multiple draft picks and we'll make up salary. I think he is young enough to fit in with our core. he is somebody that is going to accelerate our rebuild. 24-year-old, is he? I think he is.
Local boy as well.
Yeah. I know that his contract is, I did look at this, 77.7 million for this and the next 2 seasons.
Yeah, 25 mil this season,
Yep.
25.8 next, and 27.6, and he becomes an unrestricted free agent in 2026.
High volume perimeter shooter, shot creator, ability to play off the ball. And for me, his style of play fits in with Paolo and Franz. I think he's an ideal foil for Orlando, and I'm happy to consider any names going, along with plenty of draft picks that aren't called Franz or Paolo.
Okay. G, where do you stand on the slice?
He is the one of all the names we've got here. Spoiler alert: he's the only one I'd throw a lot at. I did say I'd stick, but that was me just being a bit conservative. But with the draft capital that we've got, and if we can make the salary work, so you're looking to get 25 million. So yeah, go on. I'll just read out some of the Magic salaries this season, so everyone's got sort of an idea, right? So I'm not going to include, Franz and Paolo. I'm not going to include Anthony Black or Jet Howard because, they're on rookie scale contracts. So Jonathan Isaac's on 17 million. Markel Fultz is on 16.6. Wendell Carter is on 12.5. Gary Harris is on 13 million. Mo Wagner is on 8 million. Joe Ingles is on 11. Chuma Okeke is on 3.7. Goga Bitadze, I'm only adding him in here because he's 1.3, and you might need, something like that because I think he's played fantastic. And then Cole Anthony's on 3.9. I can't see Cole going either just because of the. But I'm just adding it in for purposes here just to see what we could get done potentially. Like Paul said, I'd throw as many picks as possible because you know what, it's almost like we'll talk about the Miami deal in a second, but you're hoping to be in the mid, in the 20s and above anyway, aren't you, in the draft going forward? So, you're going to find a diamond in the rough. It's unlikely, but they do happen. So getting somebody, a local boy like Anthony Simons, who, as Paul said, capable shooter, slasher, does a bit of everything. He'd fit absolutely perfect with Jalen in the backcourt with Franz and Paolo. I Markel's my boy, but if the deal was there, I think I'd have to seriously consider it.
Plus, as well, if assuming that it was, say, somebody like Markel, and I'm not deliberately picking on him, but he probably has a little bit of experience and nous to be able to aid somebody like Scoot Henderson in his path as he starts down the NBA. And he's probably somebody that they'd look and go, that's not a bad deal, because even if we bring him off the bench, you can give him a lesser number of minutes where it perhaps then reduces the risk of injury. It's you throw somebody like Markel in with a load of picks and something else just to marry it up, then I think you're starting to see something that would become quite attractive to a team like Portland, who are in a rebuild.
So you look at Portland, though, right? The only issue I've got with one other thing. So Portland obviously got Malcolm Brogdon as well, and his name has been mentioned a few times. How injured is that player? How injured is he? I wouldn't go anywhere near him just because he's had bad luck with injuries. We keep getting players with bad luck with injuries. Let's just not go there. Is my opinion. And then going back to Portland, obviously they've got DeAndre Ayton as part of the whole package. That is there going to be a poison pill here where you've got to take DeAndre Ayton on with Anthony Simons? So that I haven't got his DeAndre Ayton's salary in front of me. So if anyone can
you've read my mind here, G, because I've actually loaded it when you were talking. I've loaded a trade up, and it works under the cap.
Great minds.
It works under the cap.
So how much is Ayton earning?
I'll go back to his salary in a second,
Okay.
because I'm using Real GM Trade Check just to give it the plug. But I think without it's all fine and well saying about our guys who we've got having talent but being injured, but some other teams got to look at it and say the same type of thing. Well, they've got talent, but
Absolutely.
they're always injured. So if we want rid of these guys, I think there's a very good chance, on the off chance that Portland would say, "Oh well, Anthony Simons can go to Orlando," that they're going to say with DeAndre Ayton. Like I think that's what we would have to eat to have an actual shot at getting Simons. So what worked under the trade check, and I think this would have to include picks because I don't think it's just enough to just say, "Oh, we'll have Simons." Ayton and Simons come to Orlando. This works under the cap.
So what's Ayton on? Sorry.
I'll come back to it because I've got the
Okay,
trade
sorry.
loaded at
Yeah.
it. So Ayton and Simons go to Orlando. Fultz, Wendell, Gary Harris, Tuma, Jet Howard, and draft compensation go back the other way. And that works.
So you're looking at probably about 50 mil. I haven't got Jet Howard. I can't see us including Jet Howard, but it's one of those, isn't it? You might have to throw in Mo Wagner or something, for example, and then them give you, a player that's 3 or 4 million, as opposed to I can't see us getting rid of Jet Howard.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
His name is one that you keep seeing. As you read through this trade suggestion and this trade, and then how could things be made right? If say somebody like Portland doesn't want picks, how could you make it more attractive? By giving somebody like Jet Howard, and his name has cropped up in a couple of things where I've read. I think it's the Brogdon one, particularly, that we're going to come on to, where it says that if Portland weren't interested in the draft compensation, then somebody like a Jet Howard would potentially make that deal interesting to them.
Ayton, for context, is in the second year of a 4-year, $132.9 million contract, and he makes $32.4 million this year, which rises to 34, which rises to 35.5. Just throwing it out there. But I've put it out there because of all the players that were on that list and all the players who you would reasonably trade. I would say Wendell Carter Jr. has the most value with his contract of those guys. He's more likely to play. When he's fit, he's a 15, 16, and 10 guy, roughly. He's got a value, but I think they would want us to take back DeAndre Ayton. I think that would be the price. I also totally hear about, I know we've got Malcolm Brogdon on the list. We can't trade one way or another for another injury-prone guy as good as Malcolm Brogdon is. Because if Brogdon was fit, we wouldn't be having this.
No, and there'd be other teams calling as well.
Well, Brogdon's not getting traded around like he has been.
Exactly.
If he's fit, because he is the Orlando Magic, maybe he'll get fit here type punt.
Yeah.
So I'm out on Brogdon, and my worry is the only way we get Simons is to eat that contract, and I'm not sure I want to do that. Because every time I've seen it, he's been appalling.
Yeah, and that's salary cap hell then, isn't it? And obviously the flexibility that we've worked so well to have, it's a one swing. If Simons doesn't work out, then you're stuck with Ayton for 4 years. And then if you annoy Paolo and Franz, just saying, then it's a big reset again, isn't it?
It's certainly a possibility that you've got to consider. And were it the case, it would certainly sour my view on doing that. But equally, taking somebody like a Markel, who is an expiring contract, straight away next season, what is it, G, 12.5 million?
Markel's on 16.6 this year.
16. So straight away, you've got an expiring contract, you're gaining that space. and
So
you're gaining the space of moving on Anthony Simons, his money, where you then do have a little bit more flexibility available to you. So it's giving them about, what, 40 million at that, isn't it?
And they gave Scoot Henderson the ball more and a lot more
Yep.
playing time.
And Sharp, don't forget it, because that boy's been playing well.
Yeah. But
Jalen
yeah, like you
Sharp.
said, Fultz would be off the books potentially if they wanted. Harris would be off the books. Yeah,
You are giving them some flexibility.
Yes,
by
absolutely.
sending draft compensation and to earn expiring contracts.
Definitely
Giving them some wiggle room.
Mm.
I don't think they do it without Aiton.
I agree.
That's a different question.
Yeah, sorry
That's a
to say
different
it.
question to the one that we were asked.
Yeah, but the question we were asked, what would you be willing to give up? And I know what I'd be willing to give up, but it's what I'd be getting back in what I'm giving up. And I think what will be coming back is DeAndre Ayton. That's my worry. It's not like we're saying...
There's clearly some conversation around that, isn't there? Because he was quoted as saying this week that I am a max contract player and I will remain to be a max contract player in this league. I am of that talent level. So it's clearly something in the air.
So am I.
Yeah.
Well, that's logic. So am I then. Fair enough. Right. Next name on the list comes from Barry. DeJounte Murray. What would we give up? The rumours going around last night were 2 firsts and a starting quality player. So, G, what would you give up for DeJounte Murray?
I'd rather not, if I'm honest. He's a free agent at the end of the season. He could potentially be had in the summer for next to for just for the money and not give up 2 first-round draft picks. I've had a look how much he makes. He makes 18.2 million this season. He's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. If you wanted to make it work, you could chuck him Gary Harris, who's coming up a lot, and possibly Chuma Okeke. I don't know if that quite works out exactly. So, worst case, you might have to just sling him something else. If you're giving 1 draft pick up, we've got a lot of them. And you get the commitment from him that he wants to stay. Is he friendly with Paolo now? But we've seen his antics in the Summer League. We were trashing him when he was, spinning the ball on that poor guy's head and, just being a bit of a clown, wasn't he? Now all of a sudden he's had 2 game winners against us, a game winner against Miami. He's been playing well recently, in fairness to the player. But I don't think he's the fit that the Magic like in terms of personality. So I don't think we'll go anywhere near him. But obviously, there's rumors of him going to New York, Los Angeles, a couple of other places. The teams you generally find are rumored to be, interested in every player. Your Miamis, your Lakers, your Knicks, your Celtics. So for me, he's a good player. I don't know if I'd go for him, to be honest with you. But if we did, it'd be a bit of a statement, that we're serious. But it's no for me.
Okay. Paul, where do you stand?
We need spacing. We need shooting. And we need someone who can help organise the offence. He fits that need pretty well. I think he shoots the 3 at about 39%, something at that rate I was reading. If that behaviour that we saw in Summer League has been tempered, then I think he could be a very good fit. I did look back because we'd potentially be wanting him as a more of a starting point guard role. In San Antonio, when he was the starting point guard, he averaged 21.1 points, 8.3 rebounds, 9.2 assists, and 2 steals per game. That was in 2021-22 season, and that was the last time he was a starting point guard playing in that position.
That's as the first option, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's what if he was coming to us, surely that's what he would be.
So that was for San Antonio, sorry, was it?
That was for San Antonio in the 2021-22 season, and then he went to Atlanta.
He's playing for Popovich there, which is the best coach in the league.
Yeah. But you've got to be honest, those figures as a starting point guard are superb. They are superb. And on the contract level that you're talking about there, G, that's got to be something worth considering.
But then you don't know what he wants in the off season. That's
absolutely
the issue.
But we do have some flexibility. We do have some availability. I think also it would be a bit of a statement to Paolo and Franz that we are serious about trying to make some progression. What you're looking at, Markel Fultz, I get next year's first round pick with the Denver pick. Some protection perhaps on our pick for next year, top 10 protection or something of that nature. I think you could probably, if you want to, chuck in a couple of seconds. I think he's very, very gettable. And I think after that interview that he had when he scored the winner on us, we're clearly a team that he wouldn't just ignore as an option. I think he's a good fit for what we need. I do have some concerns in the same way as you guys were talking about, but I do think he's an absolutely excellent fit, and I think he addresses some of our real needs. And those figures got him an all-star selection, by the way, in San Antonio. Remember that?
Yeah.
I don't think the Magic are going to sign off on his character. Not the Paolo thing. I think the Paolo thing, I said it before, I think the Paolo thing was all a publicity stunt. I think it's more along the lines of what he did in the Summer League. He's available as a free agent anyway. I don't see us giving up anything in terms of draft quality to bring somebody in who could walk, unless it's like a thing with like Siakam, where it's already agreed before he comes over.
I think you look at our front office, mate, and they wouldn't go in to the position without having done due diligence and knowing that he's going to commit.
I'd be surprised. And I also think the starting quality player would be a starting quality player who's healthy. I think we've always got to come back to that. Starting quality player means a player who's going to start games. As in, they're going to be there regularly, and Murray seems to be a guy who does that. They want somebody who's going to play. So the talent's there, but they've got to be able to play basketball. But I'm interested in the shooting aspect, because the name we've got on the list is Buddy Hield. And it's sometimes out there, and it's sometimes, why would Indiana do this? Paul, I'll go to you with Buddy Hield, because you said you want to start, like a shooter, one of the best shooters in the league, if not the best shooter in the league. Would you take a stab at Buddy Hield?
Oh God, yeah, yeah, definitely. What are you looking at? He's
18.5 million contract. Sorry, yeah,
I've got 19.3 down, mate. But yeah,
okay.
So $500,000 either way. We'll not argue about 500,000.
No.
Decent points, shooting pretty well from the three. He is definitely veteran experience, good for us. He's been coming from the bench in Indiana, but he does have experience as a starter, so he's perfectly capable of doing that. And I think that you could get him relatively cheaply. One I saw, bear with me. One I saw, here we go. to
Just
get
on the
him
salary, sorry, Paul, to interrupt. 18.5 is his base salary, and 19.3 is the cap hit. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yep. The suggestion is that Gary Harris and Chuma Okeke plus the 2025 second rounder from Denver would be enough. That's not second rounder, is it? Denver's second round? It says second
Denver's
rounder.
his first. It might as well be,
isn't it?
Might as well be. If there's
Late
peak owners
first.
there.
Yeah. I was going to say, I didn't think it was second round. I think that's a misprint. That's what it's reading here, but I thought that was a first round pick. So they're suggesting that those three, Harris, Okeke, and the Denver pick, would be good enough to get him. The guy's got talent. The guy's if he's available, I don't have a problem on somebody who is, what is he, 31?
30, yeah, he's 31. He's 31.
I don't have a problem on that. I think you've got a few years there, and somebody who could impact for this team, and ultimately as well. Yeah, he's 31, but in a few years' time, if you are moving, if you keep hold of him, if he's somebody who fits and he becomes a glue guy, he's somebody who can be that player who is the voice of experience off the bench equally. Yeah, I would have no problem on us going with him.
G?
He's an unrestricted free agent, so again, you'd have to have some sort of commitment. You'd bring him back, but when his name was touted about in the summer, I believe the reason Indiana put him on the trade block is because he wanted in excess of 20 mil next couple of years in his next contract, because it was his big contract. I don't know. I know he's a good player. I know he's a warrior. He doesn't miss games. He shoots the three well, and I could see the benefits. I don't know. I'm 50 in terms of bringing him in, just because I think the summer after next we can make a bigger splash with a more key piece. So my thing is maybe about being a bit more patient.
Hasn't that been what we've been hearing from New York constantly? Oh, we've got the availability this summer to go out and make a big splash, and nobody comes.
No, I get that. Yeah, and we've got the most cap space out of anyone at the moment.
So
for this season.
Point,
yeah,
at some point, you've got to make a move. You've got to do something, because
I think Simon's would be a better move because of his age, and
I agree.
But he does fit an absolute a need that we require. But the fact that Indiana are willing to just sort of toss him aside, but I don't know. He's a good player, but I wouldn't pay 23 million for him myself. But I'm no GM. Gary?
My thing would be on this, that he's obviously going to command big bucks for a shooter who's going to be present. He's going to maybe give you 17 points a game, 16 points a game. Very average defense, but a big salary coming his way. Would he become, in the Magic fans' eyes, then Evan Fournier?
Be like Klay Thompson as well.
Well, I'm surprised that people haven't actually asked us to talk about Evan Fournier coming back, because that keeps getting mentioned, doesn't it? Along with RJ. I keep seeing names, people asking on Facebook, should we make a move for RJ Hampton?
What? No.
I think I like Buddy Hield. I do like him, and he ticks every box. But I just feel that if he came in and he's slightly out of sync with age, and he commands a bigger contract, and how he plays the game, if he was like the third option, is he really a third option at the money he might command? So I don't know. It's the obvious one, but it's not that obvious at the same time for me. So I'll probably say it depends on what his contract is that he wants. But I've got a feeling Indiana are trying to move it for a reason. We're out on Malcolm Brogdon, so I'm going to come to G with this from Liam, and he says he wants to know, and we suspect it's for the crack, but I think this is going to be a yes from you, G. Would the Magic on a buyout take Kyle Lowry?
4 words: over my dead body. No way, Pedro.
I
He's
could
washed.
halve that answer.
He's washed.
I
Go on,
could
Paul. You have it.
I could halve that answer, but we'd have to bleep it. Let's just say that the second word is off.
I'm gonna put a quote in from the Miami Heat Spaces that is Ski Mask Hall of Fame for the deal he did Miami on. That's all I'm gonna say. Paul, sorry.
Hey, I wouldn't want us to go anywhere near. I'm going to say this. I'm not bothered about seeing Kyle Lowry ever on a basketball court again. I've never liked him and I never will like him. And I hope that is never seeing him in a Magic shirt.
Well, apparently DeMar DeRozan wants to bring him to Chicago because they've got a roster spot and bring his running mate back from Toronto days. Is the rumor. I know UK Chicago Bulls wasn't happy.
Feel free.
So,
but coming back to Healed.
Picturing all of us sat in number 7 jerseys. Not Joe Ingles.
No.
Sorry.
God, Paul.
20. He's playing, but he Healed. I wanted to say this. He's playing 26 minutes and averaging 12.7 points and shooting 38.9 from the 3.
I think you could get Sam Merrill in for a lot cheaper.
I think there's other options for less money, personally. Yeah, I'm interested in him, but if he wants a big payday, then no, that's not the man.
Yeah, I mean, Grayson Allen, he's another cheap one. Luke Kennard. Could we see a Gary Harris, Luke Kennard swap? You know, they're like for like. I think they're both free agents. I think, you know, we were talking about last season. I'd love Luke Kennard on a team. I don't think he's having a great season this year. His defense is a little bit sketchy, but you put him in the corner and he'll knock down a 3-ball. He always kills us. So if we do a deal, I can see it being a very minor deal like that Harris for a Kennard.
What about Alex Burks?
Well, he kills us as well. It'd be one less magic killer out there, wouldn't it?
He's another expiring contract. So you could swap him for Gary Harris. Job done.
Yeah. But, you know, these unrestricted free agents, you know, a lot of them coming up in the off-season. I pulled together a list, actually, of ones that, you know, might be attainable. You know, you're not your top-level ones, you know, your OG Ananobis who've obviously got to deal with the Knicks, etc. Buddy Hield, Mike Conley, Bruce Brown, Lonzo Ball, he's injured. They got Evan Fournier, Joe Harris, Spencer Dinwiddie, D'Angelo Russell, Gary Trent Jr., who wouldn't be a bad shout. Contavious Caldwell-Pope, Jonas Valanciunas, Tyus Jones, Malik Monk, Victor Oladipo, injured, but we've seen what he could do. Nick Claxton, Isaiah Hartenstein, all decent, you know, and we've got a lot of money to spend in the off-season. So I can't see how trading, you know, doing a big splash. And we're going to talk about these trades in a second anyway, so I won't go into it too much.
Another name that could be attainable, allegedly, is Red Velvet, Kevin Huerter.
He's another one that's just like Kennard for me.
Yeah.
Just a straight swap. Change of scenery. Does it work?
His name's been thrown out there.
I'd be happy with him.
Okay.
Yourself?
Right, just depends who it's for.
Gary Harris.
You know, well, he doesn't do anything, does he? You know, I'm not being awful, but he's sat on the bench at the minute and he's eating up a fair section of our salary cap. So, what do you want? Do you want somebody who's actually going to be able to put the uniform on and do something? Like, this is the problem. Yeah. We've permanently got 2 guys on eating up salary room who are, whoever it is, sitting on the bench injured. We can't put a whole team together. You know, you put the team together, you get 70 games out of Gary Harris, then you're quite happy with him because he does that job for you. But he hasn't been fit really consistently since he got here. Especially for me, he hasn't, because Denver got rid of him because of the injury.
Yeah,
you know,
then we've spoken about one part of Atlanta. What about Trae Young?
He's your 3-level scorer.
What
It'd
about
be
Trey
annoying.
Young?
Can you imagine watching Trae Young every game and then watching him go to the free throw line and flop? Oh my god, this is going to be recorded and used, isn't it, when we trade from him?
Anyway, was it Magic HQ had got one on? They've done a list of trades, and that's one on theirs that I thought was interesting. Trae Young, we get him, and the Hawks receive Wendell Carter Jr., Chuma KK, Gary Harris, Caleb Houston, 2028 first round pick and 2030 first round pick.
I don't think that's enough to get him.
I don't.
I think you're way off. They're way off.
I don't think that's enough.
Yeah,
I think
they want at least 4 first-round picks there for Trae Young.
Yeah, I think you've got to throw more draft capital in there.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
Agreed. But he'd be fantastic, and as a point guard role, how many open shots would he get? With the attention Paolo and Franz get, it'd be very dangerous. Very, very dangerous.
I assume none of us are interested in a Zach LaVine.
No.
Never injured
No,
player.
you're all right.
Never injured player.
Not for me. Not for me, Clive.
We spoke about Schroeder last time, didn't we?
Yeah. It's a no. So we've got the trades out of the way. Paul, you put a question in our WhatsApp group last night.
I did.
And I'm going to let you have the first go at it. Chet Holmgren's killing it for OKC. Is this a real rivalry between him and Paolo?
I think it has the makings of a really good rivalry. If the media can pick up on it. Both are on young teams, expecting to become a contender. Obviously, OKC are clearly some way further along that road than we are. Both from the same draft, 1 and 2, and all the drama that there was within that draft. Chet is deservedly getting a hell of a lot of attention this season, as is Wemby in that competition for Rookie of the Year. Paolo put up a ridiculously excellent rookie season and got 0 attention, as we've discussed on many, many occasions. I think that for Paolo, there is kind of that opportunity when going against Chet, possibly. I mean, we've not played the Spurs, have we? So going against
not yet, no.
Wemby as well. I think there is that motivation for Paolo to ramp it up in those games, to just give the media a shout of, hello, I'm here too. This isn't any disrespect or hate on either Chet or Wembyama. It's more a case of looking and a rallying call on Paolo that he's here too and deserves that attention. And I think that's where that rivalry could come from, to show there's always going to be questions as who should have gone 1 or 2 in that draft. And I think it could be a good rivalry between the two. Yeah, I think there's a friendly rivalry brewing, because clearly there's respect between the two of them.
Chet's got a hell of an advantage, though, in being the second option to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Oh, God, mate. Yeah, that's what I say. They're clearly further along the line than we are because of having that all-star player.
So,
what about you two? Do you think there's a rivalry?
I don't think there's a rivalry yet. Sorry, Guy, you go.
No, you go on, Jay.
It's got the makings of. I just think they need to put us on national television a bit more. Obviously, we've got the national television game. I think it's February.
You mean 12, that one you'll 13th. Be there for, mate?
Yeah, that one in 2.5 weeks' time, which would be superb. But obviously, they need to showcase a bit more Paolo and build it up, because they played each other once. We had a beat-up roster. We hung around with them, but unless you play them often, you play them on national television, I don't think they can sort of build it up enough, just on the local broadcasts. And the fact that, Chet didn't play last season, Paolo did. And, whatever, he's having a fantastic season, Chet. But it could be one in the making, and obviously chapter 1's in less than 3 weeks' time. So hopefully it is
chapter
one.
2, mate. Chapter 2. We've already played on this season, haven't we?
Yeah, but it was on a local broadcast, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Sorry. You mean chapter 1 as in on national TV?
Yes, yeah,
I
national
apologise,
television,
mate.
and they could, start building it up and get in Oklahoma against Orlando every season or something to that effect, just to build it up, because we obviously haven't had any exposure, recently, and we really should, because how many times the Spurs have been on, the Raptors have been on, and to be honest, nobody wants to watch them, do they?
So there's obviously been lots of moves starting to either be rumoured or in some cases heating up and happening. We had the Raptors and Knicks trade that's happened. And then the most recent one is Miami getting a hold of Terry Rozier. Doc Rivers is back off the market. We know that, and we're going to come to that in a moment, our former coach. But G, I just want to come to you first. You're a big fan of the Heat culture. What's your thoughts on the Miami-Charlotte deal?
Oh my God, Heat culture! What a joke. I mean, listen, I don't like it. If I was a Miami fan, I know they're all excited. They were all very pumped yesterday at whatever their arena's called now, when they hosted the G League Memphis Grizzlies and lost. Terry Rozier made his debut. He was having a great season: 22 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, 45% from the field, 35 from downtown, which were career numbers. So obviously they gave up Kyle Lowry and a first-round pick in 2027, I want to say off the top of my head. I can't see how this changes much for Miami. Lowry wasn't having a good season, in fairness. He gives you a bit more of an offensive punch. There's still a little bit live by the 3, die by the 3. Hero, Robinson, Bam Adebayo, do what he does. Jimmy will turn up when he turns up. His contract is $23 million this season, 25 the following, and 26.6 the year after. And when he comes an unrestricted free agent, by that point it'd be 31. So his salary alone will eat up into 17% out of Miami's total salary. And we know Jimmy Butler's going to be on about 50 million at that point. So they're going to be in cap hell. I don't, like I said, I don't think it moves the needle that much. I still think they'll possibly get into the first round and get bounced. We've seen a lot of teams make moves, but I don't think this one puts them over or makes them any more competitive than what they could have been, if I'm being perfectly honest. Don't know about you.
I think it's a move that benefits them and maybe gets them into the playoff spots in the East, perhaps this season. Longer term than that, it could be a problem. I do think it, just from a personnel standpoint, Rozier right now is a lot better than Kyle Lowry.
Yes, he is.
So they've got more score and punch. I think this season it helps down the line. The cap might kick in, but this season it might give them the boost to get beyond the play-in. That's kind of where I'm seeing it at. So that's one move.
But they're not going to beat Philly or Milwaukee or whoever else is in the third spot. Boston. It's
unlikely. It's unlikely. Like, what they have got is they've got a great coach.
Yes.
That's what they have got. And it brings me to our next point, because Milwaukee's in a funny position because they've really not got any tradable assets beyond their 2 stars. I think we've seen a bit of a decline in Chris Middleton. So they've moved in the one area that they could move for me, and that is they've brought Doc Rivers in to be the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, our former coach. Paul, what do you think about this?
At this moment, I'm not convinced. It's clearly been a loss of the locker room, by all accounts. The Bucks are already paying out a lot of money to former coach Mike Budenholzer. They're now paying Mr. Griffin and have offered a very, very lucrative contract to Doc Rivers. I'd have gone back as well. I'd have come off of ESPN to for that money, quite happily. Doc has been a top coach, without a shadow of a doubt. 1,860 wins, 1,097 losses. But in the postseason, it's 215 wins and 111 losses. But he was fired last year by the Sixers after they fell in the conference semi-finals for the third year. He's had a plethora of talent in Boston. Well, I suppose with us, to be honest, with us, Boston, the Clippers, and then in Philly. And you've got, what is it, one championship?
He's got a championship with Boston. Just with Boston.
I think that's it, isn't it?
2008, I believe.
Yeah. So is he the right man? Is he going to get them back to that championship winning level? I know that they had to do something because clearly the chemistry wasn't there. But I'm surprised that he has been seen as in the league at present, that he is seen as the guy to take the job. I kind of expected them to go a different way, and I was surprised at the sacking in the first place, but I kind of expected them to go a different way to a more, what's a better phrase, more modern coach. Not necessarily somebody who is untested, but hasn't been around as many years, has got a more modern attitude, and I wonder if you're going to get that. Doc strikes me as being a man, he likes to be in charge. He wants to be in charge. I don't think he necessarily wants the star to be leading the way. And I'm not sure that in the modern game that is always going to be the case.
It's a weird one though, because you could argue and say, did Kevin Garnett run his locker room for him when he got that one title? And I think I was saying to G about this. They should have got Nick Nurse in the summer. I said it at the time. They should have got Nick Nurse. Like, he annoys me, but they should have got Nick Nurse.
Oh yeah.
And there's
Which is where I'm saying a more modern coach.
Yeah, there's a huge red flag here, Paul. There's a massive red flag for me, and the red flag is, it's not what's just happened. It's why did Terry Stotts just get it and walk out? Terry Stotts was an assistant coach in Milwaukee, and he walked out in October.
And he previously was a head coach.
Yeah. So why does a guy who's been a playoff level head coach, wouldn't say he's elite, but he's a playoff level head coach, just leave a contender like the Bucks after he's agreed to go there as an assistant? Because they haven't looked right all season.
You've equally got this is where I'm going with this, the being led by the star power, and I understand that it's a players' league. It is a players' league. But the previous guy, Bud, was criticised in the playoffs for not playing Giannis, in putting him up against, was it Butler? Not giving him minutes going against Jimmy Butler, and he was blamed there for that loss. As a result, one of those people who was very vocal about that was Giannis. I think that you need your star player to be on board with the team, but there also has to be that hierarchy of, this is the coach, you are the player. I will listen to you on tactics, but ultimately this has to be my decision.
Yeah.
But that's no longer the way, is it? Let's be honest.
No.
That's an old guard view here. Sign
LeBron. Sign LeBron and let him coach them.
Hey, give Giannis the money, let him coach him. He'll be happy.
Yeah. It's going that way. Hopefully, it's not something we're having to think too much about. Hopefully, Mosley just develops Paolo and Franz into a winning culture with none of the drama, because we don't want to see that.
I'm pleased that they didn't come knocking on our door.
I'm exactly the same. I thought of that. I think I put it in the group chat as well.
You only have to look. You watch every game of the Magic, and at some point, an opposition player or multiple opposition player has stood having a friendly conversation with our coach. He is clearly highly respected throughout the league, and you look at where he's going, what he's doing with our team. He does have the potential to be a very, very good coach in this league. I'm hoping that we have patience and allow him to develop.
Fingers crossed. Really quickly then, we're going to just go around the table. Paul, you've been really big about this in your pre-games, that basically the halfway point of the season's been reached. Quick midterm grading. I'll start with G. What's the midterm grade for the Magic from Wales?
I go B+. Obviously, we had a decent start, 16-7. We've gone 7-14 since. We've had that January gauntlet, which we're nearly out of. We've played 2 West Coast road trips. We've had injuries. We need continuity. But end of the day, we're in and about where we thought we'd be, if not better. And at the end of the day, we've got the 3rd youngest roster in the whole NBA. So, and we're in the playoff spots at the moment, be it a play-in spot, but no, content, I think the word is.
Content Welshman. So, Paul, where we at?
Mate, we were all saying that the first quarter was clearly an A. We've dropped back, as I think most of us had expected, as Cheese alluded to. We've had certainly the injury issues. I would go with a B, without a doubt. We're still at over 500. We're sat in the 8th position. The toughest part of the schedule is over on paper, and the defence on most nights looks unplayable. It's incredible what we can do to teams. If in the second half of the season we can address the offensive inefficiency and ineffectiveness and some of the turnovers that we've been having, then we are in a really, really good place. But yeah, I'm going with B.
Okay, well, it's 3 Bs, and I would say I'll give it that because we're doing over the season what we would have expected us to do. Round about the 8th seed was where we expected to be. We're doing what it says on the tin. So for me, that's solid expected performance. So I'll give it a B.
Still growing. Still growing, aren't we, mate?
Yeah, I think the lash out is if I think too much about the Cleveland game, but I've got to put that out there and say what about the season as a whole. So for me, right now, we're where we expected and hoped to be.
Should we say that Cleveland was a growing pain? As we are growing, it was a growing pain. Let's be nice about it.
Yeah. I think it's just when I was like all of us were just sat there going, I can't believe what I'm watching here. But it's gone now, so I'm not going to dwell on it.
So obviously I watched it first, and Paul started watching. He was giving me a commentary of how he was going, and I was like, do I tell him just to save his life and just don't watch it? And then you started watching, and I was like, oh, I want to say something, but I better not.
I said plenty of things. Thankfully, but there was no microphones in my house. So there we go. So, boys, that's going to do it for this week. But before we go, we've got a quick shout outs for our incredible support that we get from Barry Conn, Paolo and Franz Warmth, Ollie Law, Gary Clark, Angus Craig, Dylan Holden, Alan Kane, Tom Sohn, Mark Joss, Sean Moore, Liam Radbourne, Andy Lindley, Stuart Benzies, and Drum. I think I've got that right. Obviously, this is all on Patreon. We have 3 tiers available. varying benefits. So if you visit patreon.com, let's talk magic, you can join today and see what's available. If you enjoyed our episode, give it a thumbs up. That'll be on YouTube. Do hit subscribe. Don't forget to set the notification buttons. Leave us your comments, reviews, or questions on any platform which it's available, and we'll try to interact, especially on YouTube. Can you share this with other Magic fans? It helps the show grow. That's what we need. And like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X @ Let's Talk Magic. So it's a thank you for listening. Let's get the season back on track. From G, from the Slice, and from myself, go Magic.